This is episode 35 of Entrepreneurs for a Change. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to our mailing list at entrepreneursforchange.com. Are you ready to be the change? If so, you've come to the right place. You are about to join a movement of entrepreneurs who are empowering people, saving the planet, and turning their passion into profits while creating the lifestyle of their dreams. If you don't believe us, check out our website at entrepreneursforchange.com, a place where you can be inspired, mentored, and supported by a tribe of change-making entrepreneurs just like you. Hello, visionary changemakers. This is Lorna Lee, host of another episode of Entrepreneurs for Change, a web show about evolutionary entrepreneurs who are changing the world, making an impact, and designing businesses that allow them to live life on their own terms. There's trouble in paradise here in Thailand. After nearly 6 months of demonstrations and political stalemate in Bangkok, the Thai military took control of the government in a bloodless coup d'etat. The military has imposed a nighttime curfew. Anyone out between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. could be shot. Though it's amusing the number of people in Chiang Mai who really don't seem to care about being shot after 10 p.m. While I can say that this coup really hasn't affected my life in any way, except for the fact that now my Wi-Fi cafe closes at 9 p.m. rather than midnight, what it does make me reflect on is the fragility of our global political and financial systems, and how much we civilized humans depend on these systems to live. Which is why my mission has been focused on the growth of organizations and businesses that have the ability to make a lasting positive impact. Because you know what? We only have one Earth and one humanity. With that, I'm honored to introduce our guest today, Nicola Grace, the Mission Mentor. Nicola helps highly effective change makers, social entrepreneurs, and difference makers create businesses on purpose that create prosperity and make a big difference. Nicola Grace is an author, speaker, educator, and visionary strategist with over 20 years of teaching and speaking experience in the field of personal transformation. She's a 3-time best-selling author and was recently published in More Better by Celebrity Press Publishing, which represents industry giants like Brian Tracey, Jack Canfield, Arielle Ford, Michael Gerber, and Mike Koenigs. Her expert insights appear in the groundbreaking book, Ready, Aim, Captivate, Put Magic in Your Message and a Fortune in Your Future, alongside other world-leading visionaries like Deepak Chopra and Jim Stovall. Her latest book, Discover What You Are Here to Do, explores the idea that by transitioning to making money by making a difference, we will create a better world through the ripple effect. During this interview, we are going to get into what it takes to be a professional changemaker from the inside out. Nicola will share with us 7 habits, 10 strategies, and 12 laws of nature that changemakers can leverage to become an unstoppable force for good. How to get into alignment with the laws of nature so that nature works through you to fulfill your big, audacious goals. How to tell if you're truly living your life purpose or not. How to know the difference between your intuition warning you of imminent danger versus your fears trying to sabotage your success. And she'll also share with us awesome tips on how to launch a signature transformational program without an email list. Tools, resources, and people mentioned can be found in the show notes at entrepreneursforchange.com/35. Before we get into this episode, I want to ask you a question. Do you have the business of your dreams yet? If not, what's stopping you? I have a free gift for you to help you get to that extraordinary life and business that you desire in 4 powerful steps. And this is just the kickoff to my upcoming video training series, The 7 Keys to Massive Positive Impact, that I discovered after interviewing over 70 entrepreneurs. If you are a professional changemaker who longs to play a bigger game, offer your best gifts to the world, and leave a lasting positive legacy, get on the list at www.changemakerdojo.com/gift. Now, before diving into the interview, I want to encourage you to rate, review, and download Entrepreneurs for a Change on iTunes. This really helps us reach more people with inspiring stories of entrepreneurs who are changing the world. Also, if these stories inspire you to start a world-changing business of your own, head over to our website at entrepreneursforchange.com and download the Business Changemakers Toolkit to get a jumpstart today. Now on to the show. Hello there, Nicola. I'm so happy to meet you virtually and have you on my show. Especially excited to meet yet another wisdompreneur and one who is also on a mission to connect entrepreneurs with their life purpose. So I would love if you would introduce yourself to the audience and tell our audience who you are, what you do, and what inspired you to become an entrepreneur.
Sure. Hi, Lorna. It's great to meet you and be speaking here in this forum. I love it, and I love the work that you're doing as well. Well, my name's Nicola Grace, and I'm called the Mission Mentor because I mentor changemakers and social entrepreneurs who have visions to create a better world in some way and help them take their idea into full fruition, as well as, really ascertaining what it is that they are here to do. And I'm a best-selling author and I've been a speaker and a teacher for over 20 years and have been an entrepreneur for just about the same amount of time, a little bit longer as well, doing a serial entrepreneur actually, and trying my hand at many different things until I finally found my niche and my feed and my own purpose and my own mission. And how that came about is I started out as a history teacher, so I've always had a really big interest in history, but teaching in the education system just really wasn't my thing. And long story short, going through a series of entrepreneurial adventures because I realized from a very early on age that I was not employable. I needed to be creating ideas and bringing them into fruition for myself. Finally found my feet. It was only about 2006 it was, when I'm a mission strategist and a visionary, intuitive visionary as well, and I was working with the natural health industry in New Zealand on a mission strategy for them to beat back legislation that was pretty much going to send most of the businesses to the wall, because what was happening is Australia and New Zealand were working together to create a corporation that would regulate natural health products, and that corporation was primarily set up, run by, and funded by the pharmaceutical industry. So it's a really anti-competitive move by both governments and the pharmaceutical industry. And for 7 years, the legislation had been passing through Parliament. It had passed in Australia, was about to pass in New Zealand, when I came along and offered my strategy, and within 6 months, we defeated the bill. So for 7 years, they weren't able to defeat the bill, but within 6 months with my strategy, they were, because I was working with laws of nature or the laws of physics and a strategy that ultimately was successful because I took a really holistic approach to what I was doing. And everybody says, "Oh, you're on a mission. This is your mission," and it was mission mentorship really came out of that, which is my business now. It's just mentoring people and designing mission strategies for them for whatever their projects are.
So, Nicola, tell me, what do you mean by you were in alignment with the natural laws, and that was what helped you defeat this 7-year legislation in only a short period of time that no one else was able to actually beat back?
Yeah, great question. The laws of nature or the laws of physics are things that we human beings can't break. So there is one law called the law of gravity. A really good popular law that people know about is the law of attraction, although the law of attraction, the way it's taught, actually isn't a law. It's just a very small part of the bigger law, which is the law of gravity or the law of mass attraction. But there are other laws. There's the law of synergy. There's the law of purpose. Everything that is born has a purpose, and as through the ripple effect, it creates the way our society and our world and our planet revolves, and many laws. In fact, there are 12 laws that, when I dissected what I had done in hindsight to discover, like, well, how come I had been successful? Because I actually made history with what I did, and nobody's been able to do what I did since me in my country. And that's something I want to change. I want to teach people, how I did it with these strategies and with these laws. So these laws of nature, they govern our physical universe. We cannot change them. We cannot break them. They just exist with or without us. So I discovered that when we work in harmony with those laws, then we create leverage, and we also create astounding results. So to give you a really quick example of that, the law of mass attraction, or also known as the law of gravity, really crudely is that the bigger mass draws to it the smaller mass. So in my strategy to work with the natural health industry, the big mass were two governments and the pharmaceutical industry lobby group working together with an $18 million budget. That's an officially recorded budget to pass this legislation. And that's what they spent on it. So that's a big mass. The natural health industry, on the other hand, didn't have that much of a budget to fight the legislation, so they were the smaller mass. So what I had to do in my strategy is use this law to create less gravity on the side of the opposition and build the gravity on the side that I was working with, and with their mission strategy to make sure we reversed that situation. And that was just one of 12 laws that I worked with to, like I said, achieve something in a really quick time. And you can achieve amazing, extraordinary results when you work with these laws.
Well, how did you increase the mass of the natural health industry, which is, kind of a small market segment, so to speak, when you consider, that segment compared to two governments, massive budget, and the very powerful pharmaceutical industry? What were the things that you did that increased the mass of David against Goliath?
Goliath, yeah, you're right. It was a David and Goliath story. We talked about that a lot. One of the strategies that I had was a circle the wagon strategy. We did not rely on any one thing. And here's what I discovered, reading through all of the documents of the pre-work that the government did before they passed this bill. In it were the statistic that 80% of New Zealand households take vitamins. So that meant 80% of the country were going to be affected, because if the legislation went through, most of the vitamins and minerals and stuff that they took would not be on the shelf for a number of reasons. One, some of the ingredients would be made illegal without a permit, and two, the companies that manufactured them, because of the regulatory costs that would then be put in on their businesses, they would go under, and so those things would come off the shelf. So that is a huge mass. 80% of New Zealand households is a bigger mass than the pharmaceutical industry, because they are the consumers of the product. So I went to the consumer base and I started a not-for-profit that was a watchdog for consumers, and I built my database. I educated politicians. I spoke to politicians, and I educated the people. I got all of the people to start speaking to their members of parliament, and which is, it's relatively easy to do in New Zealand, because we're one of the biggest participatory democracies in the world. You can't pass legislation without putting through a lot of the information through the people. The people have got to be able to comment. I mean, at least that's what's supposed to happen. So we had a system in place where the people could be educated, and then they could go and educate the MPs. And I did lots of things. I was constantly thinking, how can we increase our mass? And most of it was different methods of education. We did a postcard campaign where we had a huge rallies across the whole country where people had got together and we educated people and spoke to them about what was going on and what the implications were, and we had them all write a postcard with our symbol, which was a red umbrella, so that all got sent on the Saturday when we had the rallies, so that on Tuesday when the parliamentarians went into Parliament and they went to their boxes, they had thousands of these postcards with these little red umbrellas on them and our slogan, and on the back a call to action of what we wanted them to do. Because up until that time, a lot of politicians who had voted for the legislation didn't really know the full implications and ramifications of it. So constantly thinking of, like really, really good marketing ideas to increase that mass. And then what could I do to decrease the mass of the opposition? That was a really key component as well. How can you decrease their mass?
And how did you decrease their mass?
By discrediting their arguments.
Okay, yeah, right.
that was one of them. One of them was like I discredited constantly educating people on the truth, and I was very well referenced. Every time I said anything, there was always a reference. It wasn't made up sensational stuff. And also another method I did was contact the database again that was growing, and we did advertising in the newspaper, talking about the ramifications, but also warning people what the scenario of propaganda that was going to happen from the government and from the pharmaceutical industry every step of the way. So I put out this press release saying this is what the government's going to do, this is why they're going to do it, and then they're going to do that because of this, so that everybody was forewarned that this huge propaganda storm was going to come out. So when there was a program on TV about, vitamins can kill, and when there was a whole lot of backlash coming out from doctors in favour of the bill and, different people in professions and what have you, my database were already warned this was going to happen, so that gave me more credibility. People went, oh, Nicola said this was going to happen. She said that, it's like they were expecting it. So the sting or the element of surprise that the opposition felt that they might have by discrediting with their counter arguments and what have you wasn't there, because I'd already warned people that it was coming, and I told them why it was going to come.
Wow, that's really fascinating and really exciting too. I'm so glad you're able to help the consumers, like your average people, be able to fight a really insidious bill that would really seriously affect the health of so many people, especially the elderly. I mean, when I think about our vitamin intake, did you know, for example, that an apple today has less nutrients than an apple from the 1950s? And that's because of our culture of monocrop agribusiness. So monocrop agribusiness basically relies on a lot of inputs in order to, produce these particular crops, and they tend to be bred so that they have attributes like they store for a really long time. They're a uniform color and size, and they're not really genetically cultivated for nutrition. So in many ways, like modern day urban dwellers, we have to eat vitamins because we're not getting enough nutrients from our food. Even if we eat balanced meals 3 times a day, we're not getting enough nutrients.
The amount of vitamin C that you need every day just to keep scurvy at bay is 20 oranges.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a real depletion in the soil. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, that's a whole other podcast, really, isn't it? Talking about the lack of nutrients in the soil. People who take supplements and people who really care about the longevity are people who are passionate about their health. And whenever you attack or threaten a large number of people who are passionate about something that has a really good benefit, it is going to be very difficult for you to win that battle. And that's why I knew that, the natural health industry had not lobbied and rallied their consumers. They had been fighting the bill for 7 years with money, with talking to politicians, with writing submissions, with the wheeling and dealing, which they do really well as business owners. But that's not where I knew it was going to be one. It was going to be one with the people who it would affect the most, rising up with their passion for that and saying, no, sorry, and remember, we vote for you. And luckily we were coming up to an election. We were a year out from an election, so we started making it an election campaign focus, so that it was something that people had in their minds when they went to the ballot box.
Mm-hmm. That is a very smart strategy. So tell me, Nicola, how did you transition into becoming a mentor that helps people connect with their mission?
A good question. It was a journey. At the time that I was working with the natural health industry, I actually had my own business as an organic day spa. And I was looking at wanting to really start teaching and speaking out a lot more about other things. So I was already in transition myself in my head. But after that win, my brother said to me, that is phenomenal. You need to learn more about what you did and how you did that and apply that to your business. And then I worked with a Fortune 500 company strategist, and he had a consulting business, and he said to me, you definitely need to pick that apart piece by piece and find out what it was that made it so successful, and then teach that to other change makers and social entrepreneurs and campaigners and non-government organizations, like anybody that's on a mission to create some headway in creating a better world. They need to know this. And so it came down to 7 habits, 10 strategies, and 12 laws of nature. One of those habits was being in the habit of stepping up to your mission milestone, making sure you do step up to each and every little mission that is part of your journey within your life purpose. One of the strategies also was to make sure that the one part of our purpose that I talk a lot about is we're all here to expand via expression. So what are the specific expressions that you're going to expand? Because when you express yourself that way, you're engaging the law of expansion that creates more mass, so you create more extraordinary results. And for me, part of my mission, I did a lot of writing, which is one of my life purpose expression modalities. I'm also a speaker and a teacher, so I did a lot of speaking, teaching, and writing. But there were other people who did speaking, teaching, and writing, but they did not have the same effect as me because it wasn't their modality. That wasn't part of their purpose to come and express themselves that way. I had the mojo, so to speak, because it was part of my purpose. And then one of the laws of nature that I mentioned before is the law of purpose. And because this was my mission, it was mine, it was clearly this is what I was born to do, and it was part of my mission milestone that I was meeting, that was the quintessential success point. And I thought, if this is the quintessential success point, like this, if it came down to one thing, it came down to the fact that this was my mission, and therefore I had this invisible sort of mojo that's within me that I tapped into to be able to perform such a phenomenal outcome. That has to exist in everybody, and I discovered that it did. So I started there. It's like, if that's the most important key, then that's the step that we start with. There's a lot of campaigners out there that beat themselves up against the brick wall doing things because they're not expressing themselves the way they should be, and they're not necessarily 100% on purpose. And when we get the right people doing the right thing and taking the right angle, then we're going to have greater successes around the world. And I discovered in doing that and helping people that, each of them had a mission blueprint, and the ripple effect of people really stepping up to what their mission is and living their purpose was that the world would just, everything would start being taken care of, that we would start creating that better world. And so, that's my focus.
So help me understand some definitions here. So
Okay.
What is a purpose? Is that the same as life purpose? And how does one become on purpose?
Really good questions. The purpose is that sense that there is a reason for you to do something or to be something. So that's different from life purpose, because you could have my purpose to go to the shop is, or I've got a purpose in buying this dress. Life purpose is the purpose of your life. Now, because it's life starts somewhere and it transitions at some point out of the body and onto, whatever that is, within your belief system. But there is a transition that happens, and so life as we know it on planet Earth, so to speak, has a moment of transition. So within those two places, the transition moment and your birth moment, that's the life purpose that gets expressed. So there isn't really ever one statement that you can come up with that says this is what my life purpose is, because your life is too long and purpose is too broad. But there are aspects of your purpose that you can know and that you can articulate verbally, and that gives you some kind of a direction as to, what your purpose is. Like, for instance, part of my purpose for being here is to be somebody that that creates clarity on certain things, that helps people feel worthy of big projects. And another part of my purpose is to raise consciousness and raise the frequency on the planet. And those are, those are all part of what I would call a purpose web. It's like everything's weaving together to give this big picture of what your overall life is about. And what was the last part? Oh, how does one know one is on purpose? Is that what the question is?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm glad that you clarified the life purpose question, because I think a lot of people definitely feel deep down inside that they were meant to do something bigger than their job, what they're paid, a salary to do, for a company, for example. And they know deep down inside that there's some reason for their existence that goes beyond their role in the family, as a, father, mother, sister, daughter, So I think the elusive thing for many individuals is how to clarify what their purpose is, especially since, as you mentioned, people do live a good stretch of time, like 70, 80, 90 years, and people evolve during those years. So I can say that when I was in my 20s, I was a very different person than who I am now. So I think people get hung up when they think that their life purpose has to be expressed in one sentence.
Correct. And it's not a job or a career or a business. So that's a big mistake people make. It's an evolving thing. It evolves with you. It evolves over time. And as your interests change, and it works within that. And in the work that I do, in purpose work, I narrowly focus on the mission, the doing aspect, and all the mission milestones, but also on this thing called primary expression modalities, because as souls that are animating our body, we have come here, as I said, with the sole purpose of expansion. We're here to expand. If you look at human history, you can see that we as a humanity have expanded. We've increased our consciousness. We've expanded our options, expanded our possibilities, expanded information. And that is part of the evolution of the sole purpose of expansion. And the way we expand is through expression. The name of the game is all about expression. And when you think about it, Lorna, if you've ever had a job or one aspect of your business that you really don't like doing, but you have to do these tasks over and over again, you're expressing yourself in a certain way that isn't really part of your purpose. The joy isn't there, but the moment you start expressing yourself in a manner that is your purpose, the passion goes up, the joy goes up, the excitement goes up. You could do it for free. You could do it forever. You have somebody has to drag you away from it, because you're so passionately involved in what you're doing and how you're expressing yourself. And so if we focus on, what are you here to express, and how are you here to express yourself? In the work that I do, I teach that knowing what those expression modalities are gives you the greatest clarity of the direction for you to go and where you're actually going to be able to achieve phenomenal success as well as expansion.
Okay, so it sounds like then, Nicola, what you're saying is passion is the signal for whether or not you're living on purpose. So if you're living on purpose, then you feel more passion in your life. You feel more joy. You feel more inspiration.
Yeah, the way I look at it is that when you're on purpose and you don't ask whether you're on purpose or not, you're so involved and you're so absorbed in what you're doing, you're not asking the question, am I on purpose? If you're asking the question, am I on purpose, then there's probably a little bit of tweaking that needs to be done. Maybe it doesn't necessarily mean that you're off track, but there needs to be tweaking, because when you're on and you're so focused and you're just in the being aspect of what it is that you're doing, that you're not off center to ask the question, well, hang on a second, am I on purpose? Because at some level you are it, you know it. I mean, I'm getting a bit zen here, but that's really, it's the experience that there's just nothing else that you would do. This is it.
Yeah, I would say the moments in my life that I felt that way were characterized by a few things. The first thing is flow. Everything feels really easy and harmonious and moving along at a good pace and going in a direction that feels really, really good. The second for me would be synchronicity. So I start meeting people that support my purpose or mission, and it seems like opportunities appear. And so there seems to be an increasing frequency or occurrence of synchronicity. And the third thing is, if I were to ask myself whether or not there'd be something else I'd rather be doing, I would say that basically the feeling is being exactly where I need to be at the moment. If someone were to ask me, where would you rather be? And the answer would be right here, right now, doing exactly what I'm doing. So...
Yeah, I love that, and exactly, I love that, and I love the synchronicity, because that is a true thing. I mean, even in my business, I look at the flow all the time, and if I do come up against something, the first place I always go to is my mind, and I go, am I on the right track, and is it my mind that's getting in the way and it's self-sabotaging? Mm-hmm. And then And so I always go in first. I take responsibility for the results that I'm getting or the results I'm not getting, and I go in first and I go fix that, or I deal with that, clear whatever I need to clear. If the flow isn't happening and the synchronicity isn't happening, you're absolutely right. It is an indication that there needs to be some tweaking. And for me, I'm constantly having to do that. Like as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, I'm checking myself to go, I love that question. Is there something else I'd rather be doing? Because if that's it, then that's what I really need to turn my focus on my business in, for sure.
How do you know if it's something that you're doing to yourself, you're self-sabotaging, or if it's the universe telling you, do not go this way? Do you have a little spidey sense that shows you one versus the other?
Wow, that is an awesome. You ask great questions. These are life-challenging,
Hey, I want to know, Nicola. I'm trying to figure it out for myself.
For me, it comes down to having developed a really good relationship with my soul and with my higher self. That I ask the right questions and I look for the synchronicity, and I hear the resonance and I feel the resonance in my own body to what that is. And that's the good question to ask. In fact, it's the perfect question to ask. Is this, like when I'm up against the block, because sometimes those blocks are part of our purpose and they're part of our life challenges, and that's how we expand. So I go, is this the universe saying, I'm up against the block, I need to turn left, I need to turn right, or I need to do a 180, right? Or is this the moment for me to overcome the block? And for me personally, I always start with looking within to see if that block is within, and then the universe will correct me, right? So like, I don't have to sit and wait for the universe to give me, or my higher self to give me a response. I go into action on the inner plane. Because this is what I discovered, and one of the things we haven't talked about in my background is that I've had cancer twice now, and both times I've had a really significant quantum healing that's occurred. The first time I had this amazing experience where I was catapulted out of my body and into mind itself, and discovered how everything in form starts first in consciousness. So if I'm up against a block, if I'm up against the pharmaceutical industry, if I'm up against anything, if I'm up against a nothingness, like nothing's happening regardless of what I do in my life, there is consciousness behind that. Whether I'm supposed to keep going or not, there is still consciousness behind it. So I use a process where I track back to go to where that consciousness is, correct the consciousness or transmute it, and have a better thought. Then it becomes a little easier for me to go, yeah, I'm getting feedback here. I'm getting feedback that I'm off track, or I need to focus or tweak something here.
There's an incredible book that I read. It's called Dying to Be Me, and it's written by a woman called Anita Moorjani, who traced her cancer towards a very deep and long-standing self-hatred she had of herself because of having had a life of being pressured to be somebody else from her family, from her culture, also some of her experiences she had in secondary school, which interestingly enough was the same secondary school I went to. She and I both went to the Hong Kong International School, and I found it astounding that she and I both experienced intense racism on a daily basis going to that school. And I would say that for myself, I'd, really internalized a lot of that racism. And she writes about, in her book, how that was also another story building block. So her story of self-hatred or not accepting herself had many different building blocks, and that was one of them. So it was really interesting to see that discovery that she made during a near-death experience of where her cancer actually originated from. It wasn't toxins, it wasn't, food, it was, from her consciousness and from her own self-loathing.
Yeah, I mean, even if you do have toxicity and malnutrition and you're eating the wrong foods and what have you, there is consciousness behind why you do that. There's consciousness in the food that you eat, and there's consciousness in the reason why, well, how come this person can eat that and not get cancer, and I can eat it and get cancer? And for me, everything comes down to consciousness, and the relationship always starts in consciousness. And for me, it was, I don't want to be here. I'm somebody who, I feel the pain of the world really deeply. And I actually read somewhere, like, what is the definition of a social entrepreneur and a change maker? Both the two different websites had this question on, and both of them had a very similar answer, and it's somebody who feels pain and suffering in some part of the world and has a calling to change that and make that part of their life mission. So that's a definition of a social entrepreneur and change maker, and I like that definition. That's definitely me. So I couldn't be happy if there was, for the longest time, I could not be happy while there was suffering in the world. And I'd never been able to reconcile that up until very recently. So the first time I had cancer, it was like, I didn't want to be here. I wanted to get out and so my body was manifesting a way out. The second time when I had to visit it again, it was a different cancer, it was melanoma. I was, how come I'm here again? And it was because I really didn't want to be here. I was looking at the way the world was going, and I was going, man, I don't want to live in this world. And part of the solution this time was really having to step up and be part of the solution. So now I'm involved with working with people that have the most phenomenal mission. They discover within them something that they always really loved to do and wanted to do, and they just never knew how they were going to make money from it, is the very thing that they were born for. Everybody at this stage is actually born for something really grand, because we're shifting history. We're going into a different age, and we're in a historic moment in human history right here. So when you get in contact with that part of you that goes, yeah, there's something big for me to do, it's phenomenal, the ripple effect that has on creating the world and into a better place. And so I am with people who are solving the problems of the world, and just ordinary, everyday people with great ideas and great hearts out there making the difference that they know that they were born to make. And that keeps me alive. It really does.
Wow, thank you for sharing that story. I think it can be so challenging for people to really make a deep inner shift in a storyline or a deeply held belief that might, have been with them for a long time. I mean, for Anita Moorjani, she went into a spontaneous remission. Like, her cancer essentially vanished when she completely and fully embraced self-love. And so when you embraced your mission to be part of the solution, was that what helped you heal your cancer?
It was part of it. The other part of it was, like, I think when I stepped up to do the work with the natural health industry, there was an energy that was flowing through me that was very regenerative. I could feel it. I could feel that, like, instead of being sick or instead of being tired, instead of feeling really like I just wanted to call it into bed at the end of the day, I was energized. And it was that energizing that was going through my body because I was so passionately involved in my mission. And this is my big, this is my big life moment. I didn't know it at the time. There was energy that was going through my body that I could feel that it was healing me. It was, I don't know how to explain it better than that, but hopefully that's understandable.
Do you help your clients try to connect with that regenerative force? Because I can imagine anyone who does really connect with their life purpose is connecting with that force.
I do in a subtle way. Like, I teach meditation techniques that take you into connecting with your heart-soul connection, and then into what I call the genius data bank. So, I know with your NLP work, you know a lot about the subconscious mind. Well, the subconscious mind interfaces with the collective conscious and with the superconscious. So those are minds, and there's information and intelligence there that we can access. So I do teach methods of how you access that. And that is where the regenerative, like going into the superconscious, that is where the regenerative energy and nature of our, the spirit that is animating through the soul and our body, flowing through us. That's how we access that, and allow that to just open up the valves and let it race through your veins and your blood.
What I find really fascinating is that, some of the things that you are teaching seem pretty esoteric to the mainstream business world. So I'm kind of curious as to, how you are connecting with these people, these clients that are willing or even hungry to pay to discover their life purpose, to pay a professional like you to help them walk through this process that's both strategic in a business, in a practical business sense, but also energetic and holistic. So when you got started as a mentor, how did you get your first clients? And how do you get your clients now?
Good questions. Firstly, like my branding is strategy with spirit. So I brand myself as somebody that works holistically, as you said, using spiritual principles as well as strategies. So I tend to attract people who are spiritual-based entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of us. I mean, it is a growing, voluminous niche of people who are really founded in spiritual principles and want to infuse them in their business life. So there is a niche out there for that. At the very, very beginning, I volunteered to do strategy planning for a number of not-for-profit and a couple of business people, because I wanted to prove that when you work with the laws of nature, because they're laws, they're universal, it means you can apply them universally. So whether it's a business, a not-for-profit, a non-government organisation, or a government, it didn't matter what industry you applied it to, what mission strategy, for what purpose. Because these laws are universal, it would apply, and you would get the same synergistic and leverage results, regardless of what the industry is. So I set out to volunteer my services as a mission strategist for a number of not-for-profits, for a couple of business people, social entrepreneurs, as well as individual solopreneurs, to see, is this applicable? Can I get consistent results with across these different platforms before I actually then massaged it to become a branding as the mission mentor? And I found that people were getting good results. We were getting some traction, and some really good synergies were happening across the board. And for the past 3 years, I've really been focusing on two different audiences. The first audience of people who feel like they've got a mission and there's something they want to do, and they want to know what that is, and then get them started so that, they're absolutely 100% living true to their purpose and what they're here to do, and they're monetized accurately, so it's their focus. And the other audience are people who already know what their idea is, what their mission is, but they're struggling and they need some kind of a strategy, the way forward, especially if they are up against obstacles. That's kind of like what my specialty is using the laws of nature, teaching them how to use the laws of nature to overcome those obstacles. So, that's how I got started. I just volunteered, and then volunteering is really good, and just saying, hey, I'd really like to help you, because then I got testimonials, and I had confidence. I go, wow, this has got value for people, and there's some really good things that are happening. And so now with confidence and testimonials, you've got a base to then go out and canvas for other clients. And in relation to how I built, how did I get my next lot of clients? I speak. I'm a public speaker. I do keynote speaking, and I hold workshops and events. So a lot of the clients that I've got are, if they're not word of mouth referral, they're from people that I've met personally. And then just recently, in the last year and a half, I've taken my programs online so that people all over the world can participate, that I do mission strategies for people in Europe and Africa and in America and Australia, which is where I live, everywhere now that it's online. And so I do internet marketing for those purposes. So, yeah.
So you got started, pretty much offline in the beginning through...
Yes.
Pro bono offers, and then, word of mouth started to grow your clientele, and then you were doing in-person speaking events. How did you get those speaking events?
Just knocking on doors.
Oh, okay. So you did outreach and said, hey, I would love to offer my expertise. Would you like a speaker?
Absolutely. And, I have been speaking and teaching for, like I said, 20 years. So I've got contacts, and I've got people I know, and I have, one of my strategies I like to do is go mass action on the 6 degrees of separation. And that's, that's that whole idea from that movie that Will Smith was in, where anybody you want to get to, or anything that you want to have, I would say, you're within 6 degrees of it by 6 contacts. So within 6 contacts, somebody's going to be able to connect you with what it is that you want. And that's what I do. I go massive action on calling everybody I know and asking them if they know somebody, if they don't know themselves. And of course, connecting with what it is that you want as an outcome or a certain person is a lot easier with the internet. They say it's like 3 degrees now, but I think that it's actually 2 degrees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're in an increasingly interconnected world. So it's interesting the path that you took, because it's certainly an organic path. A lot of people find themselves, transitioning their offline business and really scaling up and going online. I'm kind of curious, though, now that you have both, have had both in place, do you think that it's actually possible to completely launch with an online program, a group, coaching program, for example, without prior clients, for example? So let's say if you had someone who was, just leaving their day job and they really wanted to become a life coach or some kind of business coach, but they haven't actually built up their own coaching clientele. Because coaching is really hard to scale, especially one-on-one coaching, because there's only so many hours of the day that you could possibly offer to your clients. So if you're, offering an online course that has group QA calls, you can certainly serve more people, and it won't necessarily take more time out of your day. But do you think it's actually possible for someone to start out that way, or do you recommend that they start out the way that you went? Call people, reach out to your network, see if there's anyone in your network that would like to try out your services for free, and then hope that, that turns into referrals. What do you think?
Well, I always teach a circle the wagon strategy, which is a strategy where you involve everything. I don't think that you want to exclude anything, and you definitely don't want to exclude the internet, for sure, because it's so much is going online, and in a global market today, your local market hasn't necessarily got the economy that's going to support and sustain you. So you do need to go out to a wider audience. But if you were starting out, see, one of the things I always do with my work is, as I go, if you're starting out, I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all. We need to find out where you're at. So if you have a lot of confidence, and you're ready to go, then it's not going to matter which way you go. You're going to get there in the end anyway. But if you're somebody who's just starting out on the internet and you don't know your way around a browser, the time it's going to take you, the learning curve is so steep, I wouldn't recommend that you start there. I would recommend that you time that. You go out and do a computer course, first of all, so you know how to use your computer, and get started by networking and joining local meetups and business networking groups. And if you're doing it online, and you've got it all, you've got the confidence, and you know your way around a computer and what have you, then if you're doing it online, what I would do immediately is I would do joint ventures, because that's how I get the most registrations from any of the online stuff that I teach, is all joint ventures, leveraging off other coaches or other people's lists who service the same clientele and audience as you, so that you're not having to start from scratch.
So you think then that it's through these joint venture referral partners, it's entirely possible to launch with a online program without a existing audience or clients?
Definitely, yes. In fact, that's the best way to build your client, because you're building it off of lists of people who have already paid for coaching or paid for your services with somebody else. And now what you're doing is offering a micro niche within their niche to service their clients really well. And getting joint venture partners is it comes down to confidence. This is why I would say I don't think there's a one size fits all. Where are you at? If you don't have the confidence, then I would highly recommend that you go and you volunteer your services and you get confidence. You get people saying, hey, you're great, and you say, oh, that's fantastic, I'm glad you got a good result. How much do you think I should charge, or how much was this worth it for you? And you do that, at least 4 times. You volunteer, to coach somebody or whatever it is that you're offering. You do that 4 times. You've got 4 testimonials. You've got, you're measuring your confidence. You're making corrections. You're getting feedback from people who've worked with you, so that each time you go to work with the next person, you get better and better, and you just keep improving yourself. So by the time that you're ready to offer to a bigger audience, you've already got those under your belt. I wouldn't ever sit around with no business. If I ever have a problem with bringing in more business, I go out and I give my service to somebody, and then they refer me, or they, I do it strategically, obviously, and to somebody who's going to refer me, and if I do a good job for them, and that's what I do. I just keep going, keep it in motion.
So would you actually build your complete online course in advance of approaching joint venture partners, or would you follow a strategy that many information marketers follow, which is pre-sell the course? So let's say you're just starting off and you don't actually have your own email list, and you've got this course idea or an expertise that you would like to offer to your JV partners. Do you recommend that they actually complete the thing first, or simply complete an outline and then have a really strong story and presentation, and then pre-sell the program until you get enough people to buy to make it worth your time to build the course?
Yeah, good questions, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that teach that idea: build the plane as you fly.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Lisa Sasevich taught me that. Yeah, it is. And again, I would say, well, I've got to come back to asking the question: who are you? What are you capable of? And could you pull it off? Because if you're doing something online and you don't know much about the world of of the internet, and you don't know how to put a website together, or if you're doing a teleseminar, you don't know how to market it, or you don't know how to use the teleseminar software, you have a really huge learning curve. And can you pull it? Yeah, right? Can you pull it off in time? Can you pull it off in time?
Think about my very first telesummit. Wow, yeah, that was like an intense trial by fire. It was a lot of work. And I'm already pretty techie too, but it's always the devil in the details. Like something doesn't work right, or having to overcome the software learning curve in a short period of time. Like one shopping cart. Oh my God. That was not user friendly. I remember just, looking at that. I'm like, I don't have the time to learn that. I have to find someone, hire someone. I'll pay them anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's it. But that's the big thing, and the way I get around it is like, I don't like stress, and stress isn't good for me. Being a cancer survivor and thriver, I need not to have stress, and my hair falls out when when I get really stressed. So how I do it is I always get to the second, like if I get to the second. The second module. Like, so for instance, if you're doing a course that's got 5 modules, I get the second one under my belt, done up, and that's great, so that I've got that done, and then I have time to do the other modules 2 weeks in advance. So that gives me heaps of time, and that's just something I've learned myself. I just feel better about that. You most assuredly want to have an outline, and if you're a really good speaker and you're really confident, and you're just doing a teleseminar series where you're just getting on the phone and you're talking and you're not creating PowerPoints and what have you, then I think you can do an outline and go to market. But if you're doing PowerPoints and you're putting handouts together and you're learning technology, I personally, it's my personality type to get 2 modules under my belt.
Yeah, I think that would be what I would do too, for sure, because there's nothing more stressful than feeling like you're behind schedule and you can't meet your what you promised your customers, and that's not a very fun place to be.
Not at all.
So how do you know how much to price these products? Because when I look at different online courses, I see everything from, oh my gosh, $297 for something that's, pretty well put together, to $597 for something that had less content than the $297 course. And then I see courses that are like $2,000. And I will admit that I've purchased those courses too, and specifically one that was about podcasting, only to discover podcasting is really not a business. Although they were positioning it as, start an online business, use podcasting. I mean, I love podcasting. It's great. I'm so glad I learned it. But, when I look back on what I was willing to pay for the information that I received, I'm like, now, knowing what I know now, I don't know if I would pay almost $2,000, to learn about podcasting.
No.
So how do you know?
I wouldn't either. Look, I have a very, a really good way of looking at what I spend my money on. I mean, to answer your question, how do I price my products and services and what have you? My clients tell me how much I'm worth. When I launch anything, I usually give it to a test market of loyal clients or loyal customers and subscribers and followers and people who've been with me for a long time. And I gift it to them, and I ask them to tell me how much is that worth. And then I ask them another question: how much would you be willing to pay for it? Because that's not the same. Because people say, it was worth $10,000, and I'm going, yes, but how much would you pay for it? Oh, 97. So you got to follow up with that second question, and that is how I do it. And then you just slide it. And as far as when I buy anything, I'm one of these people that likes as much as I possibly can get for my dollar. But I don't want a whole lot of junk. Like, I don't want a whole lot of bonuses that aren't worthless to me. But I want to, if I'm going to be spending anything over, say, $500, I wouldn't do it to learn just one thing. I'd want a system.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
I would want a system. At $500 or more, I would want a system. And I'd want community. I'd want a the possibility of networking and what have you, because then I'm getting the biggest bang for my buck.
If you were going to launch a course that was in excess of $500 or priced at about $1,000, would that include group question and answer calls? Always.
Everything comes down to who are you, what's your personality, and what really works for you. I'm an extremely hands-on person. I had a doctor in Germany who's now on my year-long mentoring business program with her mission. She did my mission blueprint program and found out what her big mission was, and now we're step-by-stepping it. When she first signed up for the program, she got an absolute shock that she got a personal email from me and so much support from me personally. She wasn't expecting it. It was a $900 program, and for that amount of money, with all of the other stuff she's done, she was blown away with how much of me she got. Because that's me, that's my personality. It's like, I've got products that people buy, like people will buy my books, and people will buy, I could get these notifications that somebody's bought this product and that product, and the lower priced products don't have me personally in them. And it is so hard for me not to email them and go, I want to know about you. How are you doing with your family? What makes you happy? And I want to know them. And I mean, I literally don't have the time to do that for every customer that I have. But boy, it is hard for me not to do that, because I'm a touchy-feely person. I love to know who's buying me, who's working with me, who's resonating with me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
so I always do Q&As.
Okay, great. Is it weekly or bi-monthly? How much of your time do you give?
It depends on what the program is. It absolutely depends on what the program is, and it depends on how busy I am. But, I like the personal touch, so whatever I can do to keep that. And if I've got clients that are on my home study program, I do have a question and answer for them, and I let them know in advance. I look at this forum on Mondays and Fridays, so they know that they've got an expectation that they're going to hear from me on those days, or don't bother posting, anything in between, but you make sure you post the day before, so by the time I go on, it's there for me to comment on.
Okay, great. Well, hey, this has been such a wonderful conversation, but we are coming to the close of the interview. So I'd love to leave you with the last 3 questions. Okay, so knowing what you know now, if you look back at your entrepreneurial journey, was there any huge mistake that you made that drained your time, energy, and money that you would do differently if you had the chance? What was that, and how can we learn how to avoid that mistake?
The huge mistake, which I've actually made 3 times, and I've finally learned it, taking on the wrong partner. When your gut feeling tells you that you know that they're not going to perform, or as soon as that shows up that they're an underperformer, don't hang around hoping that it's going to get better, because it probably isn't, and get out as fast as possible. That's been the biggest mistake, is taking on unproductive partners and then not getting rid of them quick enough.
Yeah, I think I've learned from having disastrous partner relationships myself that even if you cannot explain it, if you have a spidey sense that there's something off with that person, it's best to just heed that spidey sense, to heed your intuition. Even if you can't explain it, you don't know, it doesn't make any logical sense, they seem totally fine, just, back away.
It's like if you get a sense that something's a certain way and it's not quite right, you're right. It's not quite right.
Yes. Okay, so what do you think, given that you work with changemakers and social entrepreneurs, what do you think is the most effective way to change the world?
Stay true to your mission. It comes down to that. It's because that's where the soul and the spirit are giving you your power. You have power and mojo and extraordinariness within when you are 100% bang on your mission. And if everybody did that instead of just going to work to pay the bills, then we would be transforming the world in super speedy time.
I love it, and I completely agree with you. Okay, Nicola, how can we best stay in touch with you?
Well, my website is nicolagrace.com. And over there you'll find all of my social media places that you can see me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on everywhere on social media except Instagram. I haven't quite mastered Instagram yet.
Okay, yeah, well, there's always yet another social media channel to get on. I'd say 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for sharing with us your really inspiring story and very sound practical business advice.
You're welcome. It's been fun. Thank you.
Thanks, folks, for listening to the Entrepreneurs for Change podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us reach more people with inspiring stories like this one by giving us a 5-star rating in iTunes. If this podcast inspires you to join the movement of change-making entrepreneurs, we'd love to give you a jumpstart with our free Business Changemakers Toolkit, which you can download at www.entrepreneursforachange.com/join. If you have a changemaker in mind you'd love for us to interview, go to entrepreneursforachange.com/suggest and tell us who and why. Finally, feel free to stop by facebook.com/entrepreneursforachange to share your thoughts and say hello.